volume up here because it sounds like I can't really hear what's going on. So I'll just take a second. Okay. There we go. All right. Well, welcome to the class, everybody. Today we're going to be going over the moon. The sphere of the moon is where we're at. We've gone through our previous our previous 7 classes. Our previous let's see, planetary principles of planetary magic. We've gone through from Saturn all the way down here to the moon. Now this is our last of the 7 spheres that we're going to actually go into any kind of detail on. Starting next week, we're going to be switching over to the tutelary classes. If you haven't signed up, please do so. I'm certainly looking forward to the next phase of our great work adventure. But today we're going to be talking about the moon, the seventh planet in the total number of planets that are going to be taken care of here. So I'm trying, if you can't tell, I'm trying to open up my PowerPoint on my silly monitor, but I guess I'm not going to be able to do that. So whatever, it is what it is. All right. So anyway, so in our previous lessons, we've talked a little bit about the other spheres of manifestation, or the other spheres on the chain of manifestation, and the process by which an idea descends from the mind of God downward through the process of materialization and passing into each of the spheres on its way to the earth before it can be materialized. And on the way down, it receives the qualities of each of the spheres in a certain proportion, and it coalesces in just the proper way for that idea to actually materialize when it gets down here to the material world, so that we can actually experience this idea in the fullness of everything that it is possible of actually, participating in. So to be able to actually materialize, it has to have something from each of these 7 spheres. So each sphere applies a little bit of its essence to this idea as it passes through its realm, and then it sends it on to the next realm until it gets all the way down to our material world. So just a moment here. Let me let's see. It's the participants window that I can't seem to find. There we go. Alrighty. Okay, so right. So in Saturn, it received the basic foundation, and the framework of the idea is applied to the idea so that it can actually, everything else can materialize around it. In Jupiter, it receives the blessings, and Mars, it receives the martial aspects, the active cutting parts of itself, where it's going to cut away from other things and take to itself and cut off the things of itself that aren't necessary for it to materialize the essence of the idea. And then it passes on to the sun, where the magnification projection essences of the sphere are applied to it, and the idea is engendered, and it has like this whole vivification thing where all the things that it needs to actually function in the material world, like the spark of life itself, is actually applied to this idea, so it can materialize and move around and interact with other things. And then in Venus, all the emotional and friendship and social aspects of the idea are applied, how it's going to interact with others, and how it's going to have feelings for things, and what kind of things it's going to create and generate out of its existence. And because everything that exists and breathes and eats and survives is also going to procreate in some way, or create some other aspect of itself, or pass on another part of existence to another part of existence in some manner. And all of that passing on and creating and expanding of that type of energy is all applied in Venus. And then we get down to Mercury, where the aspects of communication are applied, and all the ideas that we have around sorting and classification and compartmentalizing everything, and identifying how each part of this particular manifestation relates to every other part of of the entire manifestation of the all thing, and everything that works together for the greater good and the glory of everything that exists and whatnot. So by the time it gets to the moon, it's passed through the other 6 spheres of the planets. It's basically got everything that it needs to materialize except its final form. So like there's a popular anime where it says this isn't even my final form yet, right? Well, the thing is like on the way down to the material world, we're approaching our final form, but it's not until the seventh sphere that we actually receive the outer layer, the wrapper that applies, that takes all the aspects of the other planets and then presents that in a wrapper to the rest of the world so that it can interface with all the things. So like in a plant, when a plant is going to materialize, the shape of the leaves, the outermost shape of the actual leaves that receive the light from the sun and create life for that plant, that leaf shape is ruled by the moon. And the moon also rules over the outer shape of everything that we represent, all the aspects of the ideas that we represent from the mind of God. So basically how things look, how things interact with everything else, the formation of things, the shape of things. When we talk about all the final touches that get applied, all the shiny bits, the shininess of stones, for example, is ruled by the moon. The value that we project onto things like gold and silver is applied through the sphere of the moon. It's the realm of changing shapes, right? So the moon changes shape, like you see it wax and wane as it comes into being and then fades away. It's representative of everything that materializes in a sublunar realm, everything that exists in this elemental kingdom comes into being slowly, reaches its fullness at a climax, and then fades away again. Right? That's the method of materialization. And everything that exists, we talked in Saturn about how everything that exists gets an end date. Like when you're born, you also have a death date, and nothing comes into being that doesn't also leave existence at some point. And the way that it does that is the moon shows us how it works. You slowly come into being, you reach your fullness, and then you slowly leave the stage left, right? And you exit, and everything falls into place to take the place of what is leaving as it leaves. So like the way the tides come in and out down at the beach. That's another thing that's ruled by the moon, right? The tides come in with the moon, and then they go out with the moon, and it impacts, basically it's why we have life on Earth. There wouldn't be life on Earth without the pull and the whole push and pull of that gravitational forces on our oceans and on our seas and on our water. So the moon rules over the manifestation of the earthly side of everything, right? So like when you get to the elements that are associated with the planet, it's the element of earth, but it's also the element of water. So like all watery things and earthy things that are moist are ruled by the moon, and everything that has to do with the movement of water and the flow of water, well, flow is obviously from Mercury, but that coming in and then moving out and then flowing in, and waves and troughs, these are all things of the moon, the whole cycles of things. I hope that we're going to have time to talk about the 28 mansions of the moon. I'm not promising anything, but I'd like to discuss some of that, because the way that the moon comes into being, it's a 28-day cycle, and we know that like the menstrual cycle of your average human being is 28 days long, and that's like from the beginning of the cycle all the way through to the end of the cycle, to start over again at the end of the thing. And that's exactly what that 28-day cycle is the imprint of the materialization of the whole phase of the moon. So it goes from new moon to new moon in 28 days, and the same way that the cycle of life is reflected here in the female reproductive system. It's part of that whole process, right? The 28 is 7 times 4, right? That's 7 planets and 4 elements, right? So 7 plus 4 is 11. 11 is the number of magic, right? So all these things, they sound kind of silly and ridiculous, but and they probably are, but all these things come together to express how things are going to exist here in the material world. So the reason that the moon rules over like a 28-day cycle is because it's a time. It's a ruler of time, in the same way that Saturn rules over time. the moon, by the time it gets down to the moon actually rules over the so like you know how in Mercury you get communications and you get connections and you get compartments and you get compartmentalization and analytics and all that stuff. Uh, uh, what the moon brings out is that uh, it's how it's going to actually come into being here as these seven elements are dispersed, or I'm sorry, the seven planets are dispersed to the four elements, right? That myriad of ways that it's ticked and tied into the four corners of the world, these seven forces. It passes through these 28 mansions, right? 7 times 4 is 28, and it does so in a very magical way because 7 plus 4 is 11, right? So anyway, it's all part and parcel of that whole miracle of manifestation and existence. Let's see. So yeah, the anything that changes shape is going to be ruled by the moon. Anything that comes into being slowly and then leaves is going to be ruled by the moon. So basically, everything here in this world is impacted by the moon. One of the things in Agrippa that it talks about that I'm not going to talk about in any of our beyond where I talk about it right now is that the astrological considerations before you do any magical act. One of the things you have to take into account is the moon. And when you're having success and success and success, or failure and failure and failure, and you can't figure out exactly why your magic isn't working, Agrippa says you go and you look at your moon placement at the time that you're doing your ritual, and if your moon is not favorable, your magic just won't work. I don't personally hold to that. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's true. I have experienced things that indicate to me that in reality, you can have positive effects when the moon is afflicted. So sometimes it works out in your favor regardless. There's two different approaches to the astrological timing and just basically the lens that you use to look at astrology and whether or not you're going to allow that to impact your experiences with magic. And either you believe everything about astrology has to be as favorable as possible, and you're going to wait until that time is just right for your magical act. And that's electional astrology. You say, I'm going to do a Jupiter rite to get wealth, so you find a Jupiter hour on a Jupiter day, and then you look for all these other things that are auspicious or everything, and you make sure the moon is not afflicted and everything is just perfect, and you find the perfect Thursday for this. And then you wait for it, you mark it on your calendar, and you wait and you wait and you wait. And as it approaches, you stop eating a couple of weeks before, and you like fast, and you go off of meats, and you stop having sex, and you drink only dew, and you breathe only air and all this crap for a couple of days. And once you're purified, you go into the thing, and assuming that like last minute your car doesn't break down, or you don't have to go to work, or all these other millions of things that could go wrong don't go wrong. You actually get to do the right in the elected hour, and it's going to work out. Hopefully everything goes your way. In my life, things are not that predictable. We just don't know what's going to happen 2 weeks from now, and what with one thing and another, the things that I've been born with in life to deal with. I have it's not safe for me to assume that everything is going to be exactly the way it is today in 2 weeks, because I have peaks and troughs. I have extreme things like that. Not these days. I've calmed down quite a bit, and I'm properly medicated, and I go see my therapist regularly enough. But the chaotic structure of a life lived with mental illness definitely makes you not want to or not expect things to be very stable in your life. So I learned a different way of doing magic, and that was basically the bless the fuck out of it method. So you can either wait for everything to be as right as possible and hope that everything goes well when it's time, or you can get it. You basically, what I do is I make sure my hour is right. First of all, my day is that's sort of important, but not that important. But as long as my hour is right for my planetary hour, I figure I'm just going to go for it. The planetary hours establish the clearest communication time for communicating with that planet today. So like I know I can look at my planetary hours calculator and see what planetary hour I'm in, find an auspicious time right away that way, and then end that time, do my ritual, and use the bless the fuck out of it method, which is basically you conjure the god, the intelligence, you say that the Orphic hymn, and you concentrate all this energy, quote unquote energy, into your ritual that is the result of all your ritual activities, so that it counterbalances the negative forces that might be in play by the astrological system. So you can pick whichever way you want. I mean, ideally, you're going to have everything going your way astrologically, and ideally, you're going to have everything ready to go on those dates, and that would be the best way to do things every time. But it's just not like that in real life. We just don't have that option to have everything be perfect all the time. One thing I learned as I got deeper and deeper into astrology is that it's never, ever the right time to do magic. Something is always afflicted. It's just like the rest of human life, right? There's always something wrong, right? There's always a crap side of every sandwich, and it's just life in this material world. There's something fundamentally unpleasant about some things in your life. It's like a job. There's no job that is always good all the time with all good people. There's no friendship that you have with anybody that's all roses all the time. There's going to be times where there's conflict. There's going to be times when people don't want to do the same things. And there's going to be some kind of argument or discussion or compromise that goes into play where you don't get everything that you want in the situation. And that's just how it is. We exist in community. We exist together with everybody else. We are a communal species, and we are a communal manifestation. We have lots of us and lots of animals and lots of plants and lots of everything. And if you're an animist, you believe that this spark of God, I personally believe that God is immanent and within everything, and that there is just this one material monism that monad that is part and parcel of all of existence, and we are God, and I am an expression of God, and you're an expression of God, and the table is, and everything is animistic, and through the power of conjuration we can actually communicate with the intelligences that rule over everything. The idea that is manifesting as my deck of tarot cards, for example, I can conjure that intelligence of my tarot card deck to interact with it, to scry with it, to get better communications from my cards, so that I can learn what the meanings are and understand what this deck in particular out of every other Thoth deck on the planet means when it shows me a Prince of Wands, right? I can understand that because I can communicate with the intelligence of that one thing based on my belief system, right? And all that this interacting all these different aspects of this all thing that manifests as all of us and all of these other things are all interacting together here within this sublunar realm, within the four elements. And it's all, I don't know, it's all just right here, right? It's all here, and it's working together, and it's finally it's all coming together, but in the same way that everything isn't perfect, astrology is never going to be perfect. The timing is never going to be just right. There's always going to be something wrong with your readings. So based on that, I recommend a nice healthy balance. You never want to do your magic when things are absolutely positively completely afflicted, but you always want to do your magic. Like I have never not done magic when I felt like I needed to do magic about something. I think that that's just the best way to go. I advocate that I think everybody should be doing magic about just about everything to fix all their problems, to solve every aspect of what they're trying to deal with in life. It's just what I think people should be doing. So, yeah, that's just how it feels to me. All righty. So, yeah, so outermost shape of things is ruled by the moon. Let's see here. I believe. All right, I think we're good. I believe everybody. I'm sorry, I just got a message that said that my meeting was this morning's meeting. By the way, if you got that message this morning, I'm sorry that it had the 8:30 on it. It should have been 4 p.m. I hope Going forward, all my classes are probably going to be at 4 p.m. So like if it has any other hour, just assume that I screwed it up. If I've told you in 15 places, it's always going to be at 4. It's always going to be at 4. So sorry about that. All right. So back to the lesson at hand. So Luna on the chain of manifestation. So the